or yes, we're streaming live now on social media platforms. Just so you know, this is the way we attract more people to the movement by broadcasting live on the social media platforms. And for those of you who are not yet on TikTok, I am not a social media person, so I'm very conservative. I'm only on Facebook, but I went ahead and joined TikTok so that I could go over and comment on the UIC platform page there. So if you haven't done that, just go ahead and do it because it helps. The more people that comment on the posts, the more views, the more people see the information. And we want more Jamaicans, both home and abroad, to be attracted to the UIC movement, the people's movement, the movement that is here to transform Jamaica, the movement that is here with the ideas that we all gravitate towards to see a better Jamaica, to end the corruption, to end the 80 years of what I call brainwashing, the 80 years of not moving forward, no improvement in the infrastructure. And living in Jamaica for a couple of years recently, I was just flabbergasted at how poor things are, even in the communities that are supposed to be in tourist areas. You know, roads are bad, water is off, even in an area where there's a river. So yes, there are so many improvements that needs to take place in Jamaica. We've gotten to the point now where it's the same information over and over, the same problems over and over. How can we change if we're doing the same thing over and over again, but expect different results? So this is why the UIC is here. I call it the platform that will transform areas on the island. All right, so thanks again for joining us. I'm looking to see if anyone else came on. Mr. Patterson is here now. Okay. Let's see, I will post in the group for a minute here in the WhatsApp group. It's very quiet. Let's see. Let's let everyone know that we are on. So come and join us. And we are live. All right. Anyone else join us yet? No? No one else yet? Okay. So I'm curious, what caused anyone who wants to jump in and say something, why you decided to attend tonight's meeting? Maybe the title caught your attention.
Open the door.
Oh gosh, I've lost it again.
Yes, Mr. Dalton Hamilton, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Okay. No, the subject that attracted my attention because I was just curious to know what was going to be discussed in regards to the budget, because I've been watching some things on YouTube in the Jamaican Parliament, and you know, it's a lot of things don't seem right. But then I'm hoping to get a better explanation of some of the things. You know, like you just said earlier, that you know they're repeating the same things a lot of the time that was repeated a couple of years ago, and stuff like that. What they're gonna do, or what they said they're gonna do but didn't do, and they're still repeating it. So I'm hoping I can get a better explanation and understanding from this this meeting tonight.
Absolutely, and thank you for raising that point, because that's the key, that budget that they went over, and Mr. Patterson will dissect that for all of us, for us to really understand, because many Jamaicans have no idea when they talk about budget what they're actually doing, and they have a way of tricking and deceiving. And if we don't have the right mindset to understand what's going on, we just think it's a nice thing that they're saying, oh, and this sounds good. Yeah, okay, it sounds good. But what usually happens is just talk, yap, 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 but they never can execute. That is the problem. We have heard the talks for 80 years, but they never, or even if they do execute, it's never sustained, because they don't have the foundation to allow those plans that they come with to execute and sustain itself or themselves, because they don't have the right plan. They don't have the right plan. So this is why we love the UIC and what the UIC has to offer. And we're, Mr. Neil is here, VP Neil of Middlesex is here. Thank you for joining us, VP Neil. First Lady Mrs. Patterson has also joined us. Thank you for being here, Mrs. Patterson. And I see Mr. O'Shane is here, and Samsung SM, I am suspicious that's Garth Barnett. If that's you, welcome. Claudette Barnett is here, Barrett is here as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. And while you're waiting, just let your friends and family know that the Zoom is on now. Share the link with them so they can come on, or if they prefer to view us on the social media platform. I think we're streaming on Facebook, and I'm gonna assume maybe TikTok as well. So they can join us there as well. And even if they don't make it to the lives, could you share the links, reshare the live with everyone? I think we're also on YouTube. So we want to make sure that this live, this information, this is very important information, is going to reach many people. And it's about time that the Jamaican people know the truth. And so I appreciate that, the fact that Mr. Patterson has a background in finances, and he can help break the stuff down, because I'm not a numbers person. So it's good to hear from him. You asked me to look at that budget and tell you about it. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. I'm a writer. I say that all the time. I'm not a numbers person, I'm a writer. So you will hear from the man himself, who can give you that better understanding, and you're gonna see how they tricked us with that budget when Mr. Patterson breaks it down for us. So that's good. I'm glad you're able to join us. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Patterson, the floor is yours. We have a number of people on the platform tonight. So again, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much, Sister Janet. Thank you all for being here. As you can see, I'm not dressed in my UIC shirt like Mr. Neil. Or I see Mrs. Patterson is in her UIC shirt as well on picture. Thank you all for being here. We're going to have a very easygoing, calm conversation about the 2024-2025 budget. But before I begin, let me just make sure you can all hear me. If you can, just type yes in your comment box that you can hear. Wherever you are in the chat box, just type yes to let me know that you can hear me very clearly. And then we're going to, go from there. All right, so I see one yes so far. Let me check on our YouTube channel here. Okay. Wonderful, got it. Excellent. And how's my lighting? Can you see me clearly, Mr. Neil and company?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let us begin and get into the main course right away. So good evening, and thank you for being here tonight. I promise that we may not agree on everything I'm about to say, but you will not be sorry that you attended this presentation and that you listened carefully all the way through. I will not here try to give you a very detailed budget presentation, because I do not have the staffing or the time to do the heavy lifting required. Unlike the two colonial parties, the UIC does not have the benefit of your tax dollars or the PSOJ funding to dazzle you with a lot of talk and theatrics. But we will share enough with you to show that this 2024-2025 budget is just another scam, similar to the last 80 years of budget presentation scams. Do you recall the many times you have been told by these same two parties that Jamaica is poised for growth and is about to take off? You remember that? You would have heard it in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 1980s, in the 1990s, in the early 2000s, and you're hearing it again in different words and different phraseologies. While there's been some marginal improvements in our lives over time, the economic growth required for us to enjoy real prosperity has never occurred. What has occurred? The rise in crime, violence, and social decadence. It is undeniable that we have grown in those areas while being stagnant on some of the key indicators that we should be seeing. Do you recall the many promises that we were given at different election junctions, such as deliverance is here, log on to progress, and prosperity time now? Well, the deliverance never came, the progress was a mirage, and the prosperity was only meant for the political and business elite, not the average Jamaican you meet on the streets. At the end of it all, the 80 years of budget dramas, fanfare, and theatrics, the 10% of Jamaicans who controls 90% of the wealth in this country have only gotten richer, while the 90% of us who live on the crumbs of the 10% of the wealth they have allowed us are only getting poorer or more financially insecure. We all know, as Saluting said, the UIC, on the other hand, without a cent of taxpayers' money, has developed a comprehensive solution that, if implemented, will make Jamaica a safe, clean, and orderly, true republic, one where we may all live, earn, and retire with dignity. This, however, requires that we say goodbye to the old colonial system of politics and begin to unlearn its way of thinking. This means a new leadership, a new system, a new Jamaica. The UIC will abolish the old divisive partisan model and replace it with a new system and a new paradigm of one Jamaica, because we know that we're stronger together. No organization, no company, no country can thrive with a board that is divided into two tribes, perpetually at war, fighting each other for scarce benefits and spoils. Instead of building a great productive enterprise that benefits everyone that is actively engaged in achieving its goals. The UIC understands this. The UIC understands the need for unity, coupled with individual liberty and a solid enabling or empowering support structure. As such, our solution is designed to create one Jamaica, united, strong, and free. We value unity because we know there is strength in numbers, and that divide and conquer is the strategy of our enemies. We value being strong economically, strong militarily, and strong intellectually as a people, because without these, we cannot be independent as a nation state. We value freedom, and by this we mean individual sovereignty and collective independence. We value freedom above all else, because this is our God-given right as individuals and as a people. This is more important than anything else. Our 5 national heroes, and I did not make a mistake, I mean 5, Our 5 national heroes, one who is a heroine, fought and died for this very core value of freedom. And we must do no less. The UIC is nothing more and nothing less than a die-hard freedom movement. We want nothing less than for you to be totally free to achieve your maximum potential in a safe, clean, and orderly society, where government fully respects and protects your right to do with your life, your liberty, and your property as you see fit, provided, of course, you do not initiate force or use fraud to infringe on the life, the liberty, or the property rights of anyone else. To this end, we will give Jamaica its first ever and truly Jamaican constitution to make us the world's first modern true republic, a non-partisan constitutional republic of Jamaica. This truly Jamaican constitution will fully protect us from any and all special interest groups. Note the phrase, special interest groups. And it will confine government to its rightful role of protecting our individual rights and our collective sovereignty under a constitution that protects us from government itself. This includes self-ownership and property rights, including the right to our ancestral lands free of charge. This includes true freedom of speech, no censorship. It includes true freedom of movement. It includes true freedom of association. And very importantly, true freedom of choice, even in a real or supposed state of emergency. We must, and we will, abolish the idea of the omnipotent, godlike state we know as government today. And we must install a new system where government is actually a servant and not the master of the people. Having said that, I will now give you a direct response to the 2024-2025 budget debate. The two colonial parties in their budget debate rightly referred to the previous years when their parties were in power. This makes it very clear that regardless of the leader or regardless of any change in the leadership or the face of their party, their two parties ought to be held responsible for whatever is good or bad about Jamaica today over their 80 years in charge of our governance. They must take any praise and all the blame, and the blames, unfortunately, outweigh any praise. Both parties talk about the poverty rate under the other. But how do they measure this poverty rate? Jamaica's poverty rate is a fake statistic used to deceive. Our economy is in fact more aligned with the United States, and so our poverty line marker should not be less than theirs. Because almost everything we pay for in this country, the cost of it is directly correlated with the cost of such items in the US, Canada, Britain, and other countries. And worst, because when we do get them, the markup due to import duties and the like pushes that up higher. Jamaica is a net importer of goods and services. So we cannot use fictitious markers when we're going to assess the poverty being suffered by our people. If we apply the US standard to Jamaica, the US poverty line to Jamaica, 90% of Jamaicans are living in poverty. Even those with what might be considered the the best paying jobs, not the highest ones, but someone where most people think these are good jobs. These people are living hand to mouth and under severe financial stress. I'll give you a bit of stats. I don't want to share too many stats here tonight, but I want to just give you a little taste of it. The US poverty line is about $26,500 for a family of 4 annually. In Jamaica, that would work out to about $4,107,500, approximately 101 or 102 US dollars per day. Jamaica's poverty line is about 2,860 US dollars for a family of 4 for a year, about $443,000, $11 US per day, roughly. Online, you'll see different numbers, but I did the calculations and average it out, and here's where we fall. So they want to tell us that it's okay for a family of 4 in Jamaica to live on $443,000. And in the US, that family considered poor would be 4,107,000 Jamaican. So you can see where I'm coming from, right, when I tell you that 90% of Jamaicans are living in poverty or in severe financial insecurity. If you think we shouldn't compare ourselves to the US, and many persons will be uninformed enough to say, don't compare with US, choose somewhere else. Let's compare ourselves with a country that got independence around the same time as us. In 1965, we were 1962. They got independence from Britain as well, just like we from Britain, almost the same time. But they were far worse than us, socially and economically. They also have much less land than we do. They have only 1/15 the amount of land we have. In other words, their country could fit in Jamaica 15 times. They also have less than 1% of our natural resources. You following me? So we got independence the same time, roughly, from Britain. They had more social and economic problems than we did at that time. Their land size is 1/15 ours, so you could fit them into our country 15 times. And their natural resources are less than 1% of ours. So we have 99% more. Interestingly enough, with such small land size and such severe social and economic conditions and lacking natural resources, they also have the misfortune of having a population that is twice as big as ours. So we're roughly 3 million, they're roughly 6 million. Their poverty level, using America's poverty line, is less than that of the people in America. I wonder if you understand what I'm saying here. So they got independence roughly the same time from the same colonial powers, having less land than we, having less natural resources than we, having more people in that small space than we, and they were able to create a country where their poverty rate in comparison to America's is less. But people tell me don't compare us with America because we shouldn't. So here it is. In fact, their GDP is US dollars, listen carefully, $467 billion, while our GDP, a country that's 15 times their size, with 99% more resources, with a smaller population, and starting with better social and economic conditions, our GDP is only 17 billion US dollars, give or take. I say all of this to point out to you that macroeconomic statistics means very little or nothing to the average Jamaican who feels underpaid or is underachieving and always struggling to keep up with the ever-increasing cost of living, while the fledgling purchasing power of his or her meager paycheck is always dwindling. The inflation rate is amazing in Jamaica, as well as the devaluation of our dollar. So regardless of what the two colonial parties, the PSOJ oligarchy that funds them, or the IMF that props them up in an interesting way, or the World Bank that publishes wonderful stats, or the news agencies that gives you grand stories about our stock market doing great, or unemployment rate being this low, and so on. Regardless of all of that, whatever they say about our economy, the reality is that 90% of Jamaicans are living in poverty or severe financial insecurity every day, every week, every month, every year. Don't forget that, no matter what the Prime Minister or the opposition leader or any other rich institution may want to tell you about the Jamaican economy. So while the PM is now talking my language about keeping up with inflation, yeah, they've suddenly realized now that they need to begin to associate things with inflation, because the UIC, over 2 years now, have been pushing. The whole nation doesn't hear it yet, but we have been pushing to peg wages to inflation. But anyways, while the PM is now talking my language about keeping up with inflation, he needs to do more than simply trying to take my talking points. He needs to create a law that pegs wages to inflation, so that as inflation goes up, causing the value of your money to come down, your wages should also go up by the same amount to maintain your purchasing power. Anything less is nothing but another form of legalized scam. So after all the numbers and new proposals and new suggestions and new gimmicks of the finance minister, the bottom line is, where will you be financially at the end of the day? You might recall in the last, or in the first election, I think, yeah, 2016, they offered you the $1.5 million threshold. And that tricked many of you. Many people were tricked for good reason. I mean, you acted on the basic knowledge that you have on how you could reason and think, but you were tricked. In no time, that $1.5 million tax-free amount was wiped out by inflation, wiped out by devaluation, wiped out by high gas prices, wiped out by your electricity bill, wiped out by the water cost, wiped out by your grocery bill, wiped out by the cost of sending your kids to school. So it's as if you got nothing. The same for all those who got the increase in their minimum wage. These two colonial parties have taken the very serious business of politics and made it into an entertaining spectacle. This business of government versus opposition is a massive waste of our time and money. This game, this theater of having these two groups in our parliament go at each other and get us all riled up, get us excited or angry, but at the end of the day, we're stuck. A new system that costs us much less and delivers much more is immediately required. Our tax dollars should not be used for such gimmicks and games as these budget debates are. We need to reduce the size of government by 50% and give back the people their money and give them full control over their own lives and their economy. The government claims about jobs and job growth are always misleading because the statistics cannot be trusted. But what is clear is that if you as a person were to speak with the first 20 individuals you meet on the streets tomorrow morning, 50% would not have a steady job or a regular paycheck of which they are proud. About 25% would likely be underemployed because they cannot find a job at their trained skill level, while another 25% would be fully unemployed in the truest sense of the word. Yes, them are hustle and get a little part-time thing here and there, but they're not really employed in the truest sense of the word. So the stats are a sham, they're a lie. Of course, they will have an army of people trying to persuade you otherwise. But you just do this simple experiment. Get up tomorrow morning and on your way to work, ask 20 people and see the results. The decision of the two colonial parties to give away the Bank of Jamaica and billions of dollars to their colonial masters robs the government of Jamaica of its direct responsibility for inflation management, and thus full and complete control over the value of our dollar and its purchasing power. Not having full control over our so-called central bank and over the printing or issuing of our own currency is tantamount to delivering the people of Jamaica straight back into slavery. I'm going to give you a quote that I need you to remember. These words came out of the mouth of Mayor Hamshel Rothschild, the founder of the Rothschild Bank, which is a massive banking dynasty, which continues to this day. Listen to his words carefully, and if you understand them, you will see why it is vital that you understand what the UIC is trying to tell you. He said, and he said this many, many years ago, and it is still true today. He said, give me a nation's money supply or banking system. Give me a nation's money supply or the ability to print its money. Give me a nation's money supply or the ability to set interest rates. Give me a nation's money supply or the ability to manipulate exchange rates. Give me a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. When our government, so-called, gave away the Bank of Jamaica and billions in reserves and gave up their control over monetary policy, they wrote a blank check to the banking cartel to control us forever. And this statement by Mayor Rothschild of the Rothschild banking dynasty tells us what they have done. Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. So the banking cartel, they control our government, they control our lives, because our so-called government has given up the right to control our bank and our banking sector. That is the heartbeat of your economy. When you give that up, under any pretext, oh, we have to create an independent central bank and we have to do all the nice words, foolishness. The bottom line is they control your laws, they control your country. It is time we educate our people about money, economics, and governance so that they can hold government accountable for overborrowing, for inflation creation, and for excessive direct and indirect taxation. Very important. Since 1962 until today, you'd be amazed to know what has happened to your country. Since 1962 until today, inflation has grown. Listen carefully. Inflation. Inflation is the decrease in the value of your money. Since 1962, when we got so-called independence, until you all know we're blocked on mainstream media normally. Just imagine if I was able to give this report through one of our traditional media houses and they were interested in hearing what we have to say, but they're not, because they don't want this kind of discussion to be had. So we're going to continue. All right, where was I? Anybody remember where I was? I think I was talking about the inflation. So I probably started off by saying that we need to educate our people about money, economics, and governance in order for us to be able to hold government accountable for overborrowing, for inflation creation, for excessive direct and indirect taxation. Now, since 1962 until now, our inflation has grown by 165,401.51%, while the Jamaican dollar has declined by 99.995% in value, which means if you had $100 saved in 1962 and earned no interest and paid no bank fees, that $100 you earned in 1962 would be worth less than 1 cent today. In fact, it would be worth about $0.005, less than 1 cent. In other words, you're being robbed each and every day by your own government. Now, some of you on the call or on the line or watching might say, well, that happens in every country. You know, many countries have inflation. America is going through serious inflation. Unlike America, Jamaica does not hold the world's reserve currency, so we can't just print our way out of it, generate new money and just push it. So the fact that our government has adopted policies and an economic model that results in this means that you're very unsecure, you're very insecure, you're very unsafe. You have no idea how to go about planning for and saving towards your retirement. You have to invest in all kinds of crazy schemes, take lots of risks in trying to maintain your purchasing power. Let me rephrase that for you. If you started working, let's say at 25, and you work for 40 years, you're now 65 and you say retirement time, and you try to save money along the way. Unless you were able to really do some serious forms of investing, meaning you had competences and skills to allow you to pick stocks effectively or invest in a company effectively and build it or work with partners to grow it, which most of us can't do. You're in for a rude awakening because you're not going to have the ability to save enough and invest effectively enough to have a decent income in the years when you're no longer generally employable and not employable at a rate of income that would be sufficient. And so you're left out in the cold and you have to now depend on your NIS, and maybe if you happen to have children, and hopefully those children have good jobs, maybe overseas, to help you out. But for the typical Jamaican, the ordinary Jamaican who have, none of that, maybe they have some NIS money, and that money is worthless because just like how your investment is not doing well, the NIS doesn't do well either. It doesn't produce at a level that compensate for the alarming inflation rates that we have suffered. And don't worry about when I tell you about 4 or 5% or 3 or 6%. It's cumulative. So if it is 6% this year and it goes up again 6% next year, that's 12%. And the following year, 6%, that's 18%. If your income is not growing at that level, then you're not keeping up with inflation. And bear in mind that inflation number is just an average. It is skewed by many forms of manipulation. But if you were to look at a real cost of living, let's say your grocery bill may have gone up 30%. Your traveling costs may have gone up 20%. Your housing costs may have gone up 15%. Your education costs may have gone up 25%. So it's not that simple as a line of 6%. That's just an overall average. So you need to be aware and to understand this. And if the more aware you are, the more stressed you're going to become because you may not have the competences now to deal with it, to manage around it. And you live in an economy where the government hasn't educated you in a way to facilitate this kind of thinking and management of your finances. So the current system that we've been suffering from post-slavery to now and carried on by those who look like us, who take over our government and should be doing differently, is the same thing. The devaluation of your labor. That's what inflation does. So you earn $100 today of hours that you put out. And now by the system, by government, by the model of economy that they follow, they wipe out the value of that labor that you have put aside. If we had real money, it would be different. Now, I know they talk about inflation targeting and all that kind of foolishness, right? And you'll hear it in not just Jamaica, you hear it in other countries. Doesn't mean that because another country is doing foolishness, we need to follow. But we follow every foolishness that they send to us. So you'll hear the finance minister talking about the central bank and inflation targeting and saying things that I'm not even sure if he understands. But he sounds quite smart and he sounds very intelligent. But at the end of the day, you're going to feel the impact of his ignorance or deliberate ignorance. We do not need inflation targeting. Why give a central bank or anyone the power to legally target how much of your purchasing power they're going to steal each year? So that's what it is. They're planning how much of your purchasing power they're going to deliberately, in a calculated manner, systemically, they're going to take away that value out of your money every year, unless you find a crazy way to compensate for this destruction of your wealth. What we need is an anti-inflationary law or set of laws and policies that prevents government and the global banking cartel from manipulating our money supply, manipulating interest rate, and stealing from us with inflation. That's what we need if we're to be truly free and if we're to have a truly fair market economy. But you won't get that. You'll never get that because those who we have in our government, they don't work for us. And that is the problem. They pretend to work for us. They campaign as if they're working for us. They talk about budgets as if they're working for us. They're not working for us because we never paid to employ them, at least not directly. The PSOJ oligarchs that funds their campaigns and the colonial powers that give them loans and grants, it's to them that they're beholden. And so their policies and laws must be structured to satisfy them, not you. For you and me, what they have to do now is try to placate us by using terminology and phrases to make it appear as though they're working for us. Now, recently we all saw the drama of the PM and his team walking out of Parliament because the opposition leader questioned the fact that the PM heads the government and his wife heads the Parliament. I'm sure most of you, if not all, saw the whole thing unfold. It was in keeping with the kind of theatrical distractions that is common to the current system of governance, and not just in Jamaica. If you go to Canada, you'll see the same kind of theatrics because you have to fool people everywhere. If you go to England, you'll see the same thing in their parliament. If you go to America, you'll see the same thing in their Congress. Again, we don't have to follow foolishness because others do it. And they might have different levels of outcomes because of where they are in their historical trajectory. So the real issue is the actual division of our people by party and the centralization of power in the office of the Prime Minister, coupled with the mixing of the three branches of government, plus the significant influence of the PSOJ oligarchs by way of campaign financing. Those are the real issues. But you never hear any of that being debated in Parliament, ever. Because their goal is not for you to understand the real issue. The real issue is that we have a governance model that divides us into two tribes to fight each other perpetually for scarce benefits and spoils, according to my namesake, PJ Patterson. The issue is that in our government, power is concentrated in the office of the Prime Minister, in the executive of the party, and in the hands of the powerful elites that funds their campaign and gives them the marching orders as to what is acceptable and unacceptable in terms of our governance. When you understand that issue, you can tear away all the smokes and mirror and see what's really going on. Until we fix this system with the UIC solution, the budget debate is merely a free bread and circus show. That's all. A distraction from the fact that taxpayers are being fleeced of billions every single year. And occasionally you hear about some of it through the Auditor General. What you hear from her is a fraction of what is really going on. You have a massive corruption enterprise that we know as government, which allows a few people in the political and business elite that are able to so design and obfuscate the whole thing that you are focused on the Prime Minister's wife being the Speaker of the House. And that is the Circus Act, and that is the big issue. You're hearing about which minister resigns and then go back, and that's the big issue. And all kind of theatrics like that, walking out of Parliament. You have a young dread in the House chewing out the Prime Minister, and they raise their hands and they have nice verbosity, and we're all about that. Or a beautiful member of Parliament, fashion model, says whatever on the newspaper, highlights it, and we get all excited about that. That's not the issue. The issue, my friends, is that you have a system, a diseased system, a cancerous system designed to systematically impoverish the majority. And it's working, and it has worked very, very well. Let's look at the basics. A government that cannot provide us a safe, clean, and beautiful public environment in which to live, earn, and retire with dignity is no government at all. That's the basics. So all the other chatter, all the other theatrics and drama means nothing if your government cannot provide you a safe environment, a clean environment, a beautiful public environment in which to live, earn, and retire with dignity. Yet they boast of how much billions they have taken in tax revenues. They boast about giving you new gifts and trinkets when they cannot give you the most fundamental purpose of government, a safe space in which to live, a safe space in which to go about your work and business, a safe space in which to enjoy your recreation. They cannot provide that. What else matters? They cannot give you a clean public that you can feel proud when you leave your home and go to work or to school or to enjoy some recreational time. They cannot give you a beautifully maintained country that lifts your spirits. Basic. We don't get to education, healthcare, or anything else yet, just the basics. All over the country is dirty, disorderly, unpleasant, smelly. Nothing else matters if we can't get the basics right. What does it take to create a clean and beautiful Jamaica? It just takes a government that cares and a government with the capacity to create an economy that works, not for government, not for the elites, but for the ordinary, everyday citizen who is depending on government to create that environment that will allow him or her to achieve their maximum potential as an individual, as a family, as a community, as a country. It is clear that the philosophy of the two colonial parties is not to respect and protect our individual sovereignty, but rather to keep us uninformed, dependent, and financially weak, so that they can remain in charge as the loyal representatives of their foreign and local masters. They like to take away our money and redistribute it as they see fit. They love to give us little gimmick gifts instead of liberating and empowering us to fend for ourselves. They truly love to keep us poor so that we are grateful to them for free poor education, free poor healthcare, unaffordable poor housing, a poor retirement scheme, and a generally poor quality of public environment. They don't want us to ever have a high standard of living. That is reserved for them at our expense, of course. It is amazing to hear these two colonial parties, when they're on opposition benches, telling us how bad things are. But upon assuming the role of government, they make myriad excuses on why they have not been able to make things better fast enough. All they need is one more term. The PNP had 18 and a half years straight in government. But at the end, they still needed one more term to give us progress. This current government has now had 8 years straight, but they need one more term to give us good government. Together, the two of them, they have had 80 years straight, but they each need one more term to give us good government. I don't know about you, but I can't fall for the trick there again. I just can't do it. In fact, I have not fell for it for years. At 18 years old, I told my mother that I would not be voting PNP, the party she would die for. And I told her I would not be voting GLP, the party she hated. And I told her why. I told her that these two parties serve only one purpose: to help the colonial masters divide and conquer us all over again. And if you're honest enough, if you're sane enough, if you are competent enough, you would reach the same conclusion as that 18-year-old boy that told his mother that as much as you and my grandmother and my grandfather have voted PNP all your lives, I will not follow suit. And don't worry, I won't vote Labour either, because they're both two sides of the same coin. My mother wasn't happy, but I'm very happy with my decision. And like you, I badly wanted something to vote for. And so I've dedicated the last 11, now going 12 years of my life trying to give me and you the opportunity to vote for something meaningful for a change. I wish I was alive when Marcus Garvey first started, because I would have really did everything possible to ensure that dream never died, and that movement that he created would have lived on and matured into a modern, united Independence Congress of Jamaica. But I wasn't there, but I'm here now. And so I've made a decision to push something that I can vote for, that you can vote for, that we can vote for, that will actually address the real problems and not engage in the theatrics. After 8 years of so-called self-governance and independence, the two colonial parties have continued the practice of their colonial masters of withholding from the people the lands that were stolen from their ancestors. What did they do instead of giving the people back their land? They forced them to slave and buy back their own birthright. Think about it. Forget about all the theatrics. Forget about how much you love Manley or how much you love Siaga or how much you love Buster or how much you love Norman Manley or PJ or Portia or Bruce or Andrew or anybody. Just think for a moment. The colonial masters withheld the land from the people for almost, well, for more than 400 years. 467 to be exact, now that I'm thinking about it. And when we elected people that look like we, most of them, and gave them the power to govern us, they could do nothing but continue what the colonial masters did to us. They have continued to withhold the land from the people, force the people, indirectly, of course. They didn't tell you they're forcing you, but by policy, by regulation, by design, forcing you. Force my mother to slave and buy land. Forced me to slave and buy land, and forced many of you to slave and buy land. The land that was yours by birth, the land that was ours by birthright, the land that our ancestors died for and died on. Their sweat and blood is soaked in this land. And to this very day, those two parties have us slaving to buy back the very land that was stolen from us, stolen from our ancestors. And don't be fooled by any history that talked about we were taken from Africa and brought here. Whether we're born here or we come from Africa is still our land because they were the ones who interrupted our lives and stole our lands, whether here in Jamaica or there in Africa. So move that out of the way. Don't be confused by history, which is written by the conquerors. Focus on the truth, the facts that stare you in the face today, that these two parties have stolen, just like the colonial masters, stolen, just like their colonial masters, stolen your birthright, and has cost you countless hours and pains and suffering to try to get a piece of property for yourself and for your family. They only talk about reparation, but do not believe in it. Because right now they have the power to give every family a piece of land or the value thereof, free of charge. They have withheld from us our generational wealth to keep us generationally poor. Let me give you a bit of statistics just to put this into context further. Singapore, and that's the country I was talking about earlier on when I said there's a country that got independence the same time as us, roughly 65, we got 62. And their land is only $115. You could fit them in a Jamaica 15 times. Singapore, more people than we, nearly 6 million. Less land than we, 1/15 our size. They have been able to make 93% or thereabouts of their population homeowners. Their government so cared and were so competent that with far less land than we, they have been able to give 93% of their citizens home ownership. We are still somewhere around 60-ish. And remember, you can't trust our statistics. Why is it that they're able to do that and we're still struggling. We have more than them. We have 15 times more land than them, half as many people as them. And they have been able to create for their people home ownership for 93%. What's wrong with us? I tell you what's wrong with us. Two colonial parties, controlled by the colonial masters and funded by the PSOJ oligarchs. That's what's wrong with us. And a constitution that is designed to keep the colonial thinking and policies and laws in place. NHT, my friends, as lovely as it is, and how much political mileage the PNP seeks to take out of it, and how much money the GLP seeks to extract from it in like manner as the PNP, NHT, my friends, is a scam. A scheme designed to create garrisons rather than uplifting communities and affordable housing for the poor. It was used to trick the poor to get their votes, while promising a benefit that 75% of the forced contributors would never, ever see. 75% of those who were forced to contribute, that's slavery, those whose salaries were taken from them by force and put into a scheme that they would have to borrow the money from, pay interest back on the money, and continue to pay into it in perpetuity until them can't work no more. That is slavery, but it sounds nice, doesn't it, NHT? They have used it to rip off the nation, and now they suck billions out of it. Instead of putting it into affordable housing, as they said, they suck billions out of it. Billions. To do what? To cover the cost of corruption. To plug the hole in their budget. The budget that they said is for us. No. They raid the NHT fund, which is supposed to be a trust fund. But when you go to court, they found out it's not really a trust fund. I guess Manley lied to us. Because when the court ruled, they said, well, it's not actually a trust fund. It's a fund, yes, but it's not a trust fund. And it's okay for the government to raid it because it wasn't really set up as a trust fund for the poor. It was a gimmick, a trick. And yes, my mother benefited from it, and I put that in quotes. She got a house out of it, but when I showed her the facts, she hardly got anything. She would have been better off with another approach I'm going to tell you about. Yeah? So 75% of those who contribute to the NHG will never get a cent, but they will continue to contribute until thine kingdom come, until them dead, until they can't contribute anymore, or they lose their jobs. Yeah? We would have done far better as a people if we were just given back the land that was stolen from our ancestors and left alone to build our own homes. The billions stolen from our forced NHT contributions would not have happened, and we the people would have had far more and better quality homes as a result. Look at how we turned the NHT matches boxes into beautiful homes. We didn't need their housing schemes and gimmicks. All we needed was a safe, clean, and orderly, just society and our land back, and we would have done the rest ourselves. Just like we do after they force us to pay into this NHT and force us to pay NHT all our lives and force us to pay interest to NHT and interest to the big banks, because now the price of house is too high because of their own design. We have to borrow from the big banks too to make up the NHT money and have a mortgage for 30 years. Your entire life, you're paying a mortgage. They're stealing your life. They're stealing your time. They're stealing your labor. They're stealing your freedom. That's what a mortgage does, especially a mortgage that's 30 years or 25 years. We did not need their housing scheme. We did not need their NHT gimmick. All we needed was a safe, clean, and orderly free society. And we land back free of charge. And we would have do the rest. The two colonial parties only take from us, extract from us while pretending to be giving to us. They're not giving us nothing. They're simply tricking us. They're always talking about tax reduction and productivity. You'll hear the Prime Minister give a wonderful speech about, tax reduction and productivity and creating higher wages and all that kind of stuff. Smokes and mirror. They will never achieve this in real terms because all they do is shift around the ways in which they regulate away our freedom and tax away our wealth by stealth. That's all they're doing. If there's a reward or a prize or a metric for scamming, they would be first. They have found every possible conceivable ways to scam the Jamaican people, even when they pass a law to set up an integrity commission. It's a scam. Even when they set up a contractor general department, it's a scam. Even when they commission a political ombudsman or an auditor general, they still find a way for scamming. The biggest scammers in Jamaica are the politicians and the PSOJ oligarchs who accommodate them, who support them, who fund them, who work with them to scam them. All they do is find ways to shift around the whole thing, to regulate us as tightly as possible. Not enough for us to fully rebel. The other day they increased their wages and we almost fully rebel. And they do a little bit of gymnastics and we calm down again. But the wage is still up. And we're going to feel the cost of that. We have to pay for it and so on. But they always find ways to regulate away your freedom and to tax away your wealth by stealth. And it's working. The UIC want to stop it, but I need your help to do that. What Jamaica really needs now is a simple flat income tax of 10% and a flat sales tax of 10% and no other. Taxation and regulation must not be tools of manipulation or oppression. Government must be capped in how much they can take from us and how much they may regulate us. And they must be forced to deliver value for money. The UIC's policy will ensure government cannot tax you more than 10% of your income and more than 10% in sales tax. And they're allowed no other tax under our policy. So if they want more income, it means we the people would have to get richer. And so the richer we get, they get 10% of that. Yeah, so they have to be careful now and plan and manage in a way that causes us to get richer if they want more income. Why is it that you as an employee, you can't just go raise your income? You can't go and manipulate your employer. You have to work real hard to earn every cent that you have. I know some of you kind of thief and all that kind of stuff and, find ways to steal from your employer. I'm not endorsing any of that. What I'm saying is the politicians and government, they are expert at stealing from their employers. They steal from us left, right, and center, morning, noon, and night, and twice on Sundays. Now, we must abolish property taxes to make Jamaicans true property owners instead of mere property holders. We must eliminate custom duty on anything we do not produce. We must give our citizens the maximum possible amount of freedom and demand of each of us personal responsibility. Our government must use our taxes to give us a safe, clean, and orderly, just, and beautiful society. But it must never be allowed to violate our rights unless we use or attempt to use violence, which is to initiate force or fraud to get her away. That's the only time that the government must violate our rights. And that's not a violation because they're protecting the rights of others from violent people. And violence must not be allowed even by the government. And so the UIC's policies or manifesto or plan for Jamaica is to put government back in its place and to give us back our sovereignty that was lost many, many years ago. And to give us an environment that will bring out the best in us. The UIC's vision statement is a Jamaica that brings out the best in all its people. If we were to write a vision statement for the other two parties, I would say a Jamaica that brings out the worst in all its people, because that's what they've done. If you look back at the culture of Jamaica, of Jamaicans, from the 1830s, the 1900s, early 1900s, the 1960s and so on, we're a different people. Look at what they're doing to us. They're destroying us culturally. They're destroying us morally. They're destroying us economically while telling us all kind of voodoo economics. It's time for us to say enough is enough. Change course now and take a different position. Now, in summary, here's what I want you to take away from this budget debate response of mine before I take your questions. Number one, the UIC will give us a new and truly Jamaican constitution that replaces the colonial one, that replaces the colonial thinking, the division and oppression. We're going to replace that with a governance model that unites, that liberates, that empowers all Jamaicans. I'm going to do so equally. The UIC's good governance model and policies will make us one Jamaica, united, strong, and free. Listen to the words, united, strong, and free. One Jamaica, not two Jamaica, not a elite Jamaica and the rest of it, but one Jamaica. The UIC's good governance model will make Jamaica a safe, clean, and orderly, non-partisan, constitutional republic where everyone can live, earn, and retire with dignity in our beloved country. You know how many we have to run away from this country to go try to make life somewhere else? Many Jamaicans are economic refugees. As a matter of fact, Jamaica now has a negative growth rate. We lose about, what? I don't remember the number, but we're in decline by about 3%. Yeah. While Singapore, which is so small, is growing, we're declining in terms of population. If Jamaica was better run, our population today would have been about 7 million. But because of the poor governance that we have suffered, we're under 3 million, and we're now beginning to drop from migration, from murders, from infant mortality. Yeah, that's what's happening to our country. And so the UIC is saying it's time for good governance now. The UIC will ensure every Jamaican whose ancestors were enslaved on this island be made a property owner with the land being returned to you free of charge. This is not a gift, by the way. This is your entitlement. And we will abolish property tax to make sure you are a true landowner instead of a colonial subject landowner. The UIC's new constitution will unite all Jamaicans by giving every citizen and their children the right to register abroad and vote remotely from anywhere in the world. And will allow you to return home at any time, 100% duty-free and hassle-free. And you must be allowed to run for and hold any office in Jamaica as a dual citizen, because you should not be punished because bad governance made you an economic refugee in another man's country. You have earned your citizenship there. You have earned the value that you have created there, forced to do so by bad governance at home. So come home and bring it back with you. We're not going to ask you to give up anything. This will help us to reverse 80 years of brain drain in this country. We have no room to discriminate against our Jamaican brothers and sisters in America or any other country around the world. Come back with your German citizenship. Come back with your Canadian citizenship. Come back with your British citizenship. Come back with your whatever citizenship you have. Come back with it. We're not here. What we care about is that you are a Jamaican and we want your value to come back to this country. Your assets, physical and intangible. Your mental assets. Your creativity, your ingenuity, your newfound knowledge set. So we want to encourage one Jamaica, wherever you live, If you live in Canada or Australia or Singapore or Egypt or Africa, doesn't matter. We want you to know that Jamaica is your home and you are a Jamaican and you're a part of this country, and we want you to feel welcome and a full participant. Just imagine when the politicians wake up and realize they can't buy votes anymore because now the diaspora can vote. Yeah, it will be very expensive for them to try to buy the diaspora. 5,000 Jamaican not going to work. And so the UIC means Jamaica well, because we're not afraid of allowing all Jamaicans to fully participate in the electoral system, wherever you are. And we're not the only ones who would do that. Americans abroad can vote in America's election by absentee ballots. So we shouldn't be afraid of having all Jamaican citizens participate, vote, come back home and run for office. And don't try to limit them by saying you have to give up your US citizenship in order to run. Let them come back. We have some bright Jamaicans in many countries around the world. Let them come back without any kind of hassle at all. Come back with all your assets. Come back with your new citizenship that you have from other countries and be a part of the solution. Let's reverse the brain drain. The UIC will limit government to only two taxes, as I said before. 10% income tax, which will be charged on income from all sources. 10% sales tax. The first will pay for all public goods and services to ensure a safe, clean, and orderly society, while the latter, the sales tax, will focus on eliminating poverty by providing every child and every family with the nutrition, education, healthcare, and housing that they need to succeed. As systemic poverty begins to decline from this approach and gets closer to zero, a growing proportion of the sales tax will go towards creating a sovereign wealth fund to protect the environment, mitigate natural disasters, and save and invest for any national emergencies. Jamaica will no longer have to borrow at interest from anyone following this model. We're going to build a solid economic foundation that is second to none. Not even Singapore will be able to compare to what we're about to do. Our national priority will be a safe, clean, and orderly society that has water, food, and energy security. That's the beginning. This will be funded by making Jamaica the organic food capital of the world and turning all of Jamaica into a tourist destination by making every community look, smell, and feel like a tourist resort. This will be done by the people, for the people. And they will share it with tourists to reap most of the benefits at the grassroots level. No more big companies coming here and setting up big hotels. We're not against that. That's fine. But we want to make sure that the people, finally, the people will be put first. I know there are some who run on campaigns and says we put people first and then put us last. But this is about putting the people first. Here is how you do it. Make their communities look good. Make them communities smell good. Make them community feel like a tourist resort. And make them run that tourism product in a them community and meet and greet and serve the people and get that hard-earned US dollars in a them hand, or the euro or the Canadian in a fit them hand. Not your hand first or some foreign company first who then bring in imported goods and send that money back out of Jamaica. Let's bring the tourism product to our communities with a solid community tourism program and link that now with our focus on water, food, and energy security by building our water infrastructure to be able to export water, building our food infrastructure by becoming a niche market for production of organic foods for the rest of the world, make that be our competitive advantage, and investing in alternative energy across the spectrum from solar to biogas to geothermal and cogeneration of different forms, and making sure that Jamaica is no longer fully dependent on external forces for our energy, but at least have a massive buildup of our own. And we can do it. Costa Rica has done it. They're somewhere in the region of 80 to 90% of their local energy production, and they have similar capacities that we have. So if them can do it, we can do it too. How can small Netherlands be the second largest exporter of food in the world? And we have such beautiful climate and such great land, and we're not doing it. So let's make Jamaica the place for the best food in the world. to come from organic foods, apples, bananas, cherry, guava, mango, my God, East Indian and Julie, I can taste it right now. We can do it. And so we need a government that's going to focus on ensuring that we are strong economically because we manage our water resources, we manage our food resources, we manage our energy, and we build that into an infrastructure that says every community must look, smell, and feel like a tourist resort. And then we allow our citizens full access to the tourism product. No regulations to push them out and protect big business. Let's cause the people to be the forefront of our economic drive. Not big money and big business. Let's start with the small man. Protect the small man, not big business. And I'm not against big business. What I'm saying is, let's reverse what we've been doing. Let's invest in our people. Give our people first preference to everything about this country and stop giving other people that preference. To facilitate this transformation from bad governance to good, the Army will be fixated on monitoring and protecting every inch of our borders and customs to stop illegal guns and ammunition or anything bad from coming in or going out of our country. The police force must be simultaneously revamped into a police service and be embedded in each community using the principles of community policing. Make our police officers social workers to prevent crime and violence at the root and to ensure swift justice where it's needed. A special unit, though, must be developed, must be established to tackle organized crime from the top down. Point the spotlight on the politicians, the prime minister, the opposition leader, the members of parliament, the senators, the public sector workers in high places, the commissioners, the heads of departments, yes, the big business leaders. Let's make sure we understand what, if any, role they have in our crime problem. Zero in on the companies that they own, the security companies, the morgues, the rice import companies, the school feeding program companies. Let's investigate and monitor these things and see if on there's the problem there. Because if we cut off the head of the snake, I shouldn't say that, because they stopped me on saying they deleted a Facebook, a social media or a YouTube thing because I said cut off the head of the snake. I don't know why. But if we go for the head, if we find the big men and big women, the big lawyers and the big industry leaders and the big political fishes, we find these people, make sure their assets match up with their income, their sources of income, evaluate the movement in their asset values, not just get flimsy reports that almost mean nothing. I'm going to make a big deal about who submitted theirs. Let's get real about this. Let's get into the nitty-gritty and understand the importance of having regular audits of all of these top people. Verify the source of their income, the movement in the net worth of these individuals. And don't be fooled by companies that are registered outside of the country. Don't be fooled by trusts and middle companies that hide things. Get beyond that. Pierce the veil. And let the people of Jamaica understand and know what's really going on. And then empower the people with knowledge so that they do not accept any politician that is doing anything at all that is shady. Yeah. So we go from the top down where that is concerned. That special unit will be established to tackle organized crime from the top down by searching for and prosecuting timely any corrupt politician or business leader. This will make Jamaica one of the safest, cleanest, anti-corrupt country in the world in which to live or do business. This is critical. This is vital if we want to have a country where now the small man can respect the law. The small man can respect the police. The small man can respect the politicians and the business leaders because they know that they're held to a standard no less than the one that they have to punish, they have to pay, that they have to suffer when they get thief some hacky from the Governor General's premises. If we want to lock up them people there quickly and harass them quickly, if they say something bad about the Prime Minister, let us get at the top. How can a Prime Minister not have his finances properly declared? But the small man, if he misses a beat, he's quickly being hauled in, manhandled, and mistreated by the police. That has to stop. We will radically reform the education system to produce the smartest nation on earth. We'll cause the money to flow or to follow the child and facilitate a variety of school choices to meet the special needs of both parents and students. No more one size fits all. And the curriculum will be changed to encourage schools to focus students on mastering themselves, their mind, their body, and their personality, to master human behavior, how to build great family, friends, and business relationships, and mastering money, understanding the laws and the science of money, economics, and finance. These three core subjects will be taught in conjunction with the other subjects in an integrated way, cross-disciplinary, mixed with practical, mixed with science, mixed with technology, coupled with the applied trades, to give our people a global competitive advantage, a global edge academically, technically, and socially. We cannot continue to be an antiquated and outdated education system, nor can we simply copy and follow what the so-called first world nations are teaching their kids, because they're dumbing them down as far as I can see. So we have to think outside the box, understand the problem, and treat it carefully. The UIC will also radically reform the healthcare sector to make our people the healthiest in the world by restoring natural medicine and organic farming, legalizing ganja fully, embracing our herbs, and using market solutions instead of maintaining government monopolies. Our people will be re-educated and supported by formal funding government institutions in the use of our own indigenous herbs, plants, and foods to heal ourselves. The people will now have both traditional and non-traditional healthcare alternatives to choose from, and the money from government will follow the patient. No more one size fits all. We want to have a Jamaica that embraces Jamaica, that thinks Jamaica, that embraces our African heritage and thinks African, that gives us back insights lost, knowledge lost, wiped out by Eurocentric thinking. We have to reinvest in knowing who we are, understanding where we're coming from, and unearth the values that have been buried by years and years of misinformation and miseducation. We want to return to the herbs that God has given us. Why are we buying billions of dollars in pharmaceutical products when right here in Jamaica, we're literally burning as rubbish our own medicines, our own herbs, and calling them weeds? We have followed the colonial masters too long. They tell us that marijuana was wrong, and then they come and make it legal in their own country. And our own leaders are here messing with our people, having incarcerated so many of our young men and destroyed their lives. They still continue the foolishness. Legalize ganja and educate the people on its use. And let's return to embracing our herbs. Let's not be afraid of the market. The market is we. The market is the people. When we talk about market solution, I mean people solution. We mean allow the people to choose. Give them back their right to choose what they think is best. Let them have access to choose between traditional medicine and non-traditional medicine. empower them with knowledge, bring back institutions, or in fact, create for the first time institutions that will codify and understand our herbs, our plants, our trees, our leaves. Codify them, have our research institutions work on them so that our people know every single plant and herb if they want to, and how to use them effectively to heal the nation, to heal themselves, and stop allowing the foreign powers and foreign masters and the like, and even the local entrepreneurs who wish to simply import. Nothing is wrong with importing, but we need to change the trajectory from the import mindset to the production mindset, to the export mindset, to the believing in ourselves mindset, to accepting what we can produce mindset, and to be the best in what we can produce. Thanks to the UIC, Jamaica will now have a truly free and fair market economy with real money instead of fiat currency. We will eliminate systemic inflation to protect your purchasing power so that you can save almost 100% risk-free towards your retirement. We will remove import duties on everything we do not produce here in Jamaica. You will only have to pay a 10% sales tax on anything you buy from anywhere in the world. This will not only reduce your cost of living, but it will also give you quicker access to global technologies, which will empower you to compete with the rest of the world. We want you to be able to get access to technology quickly, tear it apart, understand it, and be empowered to build it and build it back better, if you will. We must not shy away from the world and its technologies. We must embrace it, master it, learn it, recreate it, improve upon it. And so we're not afraid of the market. We're going to fight for our share of the market. I'm going to start right here at home by liberating our minds, liberating our resources, liberating our talents. We're not just good runners or good singers or good entertainers or good cooks. We can be great scientists, great engineers, great inventors, great innovators. And by God, we shall be. Do not worry about government losing revenue. That's not what we're about. That's not what government is about. We're not here to provide revenue to government. I know they'll tell you, oh, where's the money going to come from? And the government's going to lose revenue. We're not here to provide revenue to government. Government does not exist unto itself. We must worry about the level of taxation and the effectiveness in how it is being deployed. The UIC will cut government by 50% and put more money and power in your hands. When you have your own money, you have power. And when you have education with it, you're very powerful. So we're going to invest in education. It is unlikely that anybody will ever care about your money as much as you do. We want to liberate and empower you to become the master of your own destiny, instead of making politicians and their government the masters of your life. The UIC is here for you, not the bigwigs who fund the campaigns of the two colonial parties to control you and rob you. We are here for you. And so I invite you to join hands with me in the UIC, because it's time for you to be free. Thank you very much. I'll now take questions. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for that information, Mr. Patterson, for explaining so much to us. I love how you broke that down to layman's terms so we can understand. So we thank you for that so much. And Mr. Neal, you have the floor. You have a question for Mr. Patterson?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. All right, so one question that I saw come up is, how will the UIC pay public sector workers and manage the country if it abolishes property taxes and import duties? and replaces all other taxes with a 10% income tax and then 10% sale tax?
A great question. The government of Jamaica takes in billions of dollars every year under the current system right now. A large portion of that is wasted. A large portion of that is used to cover corruption, is stolen. And the kind of tax regime that we have does not encourage and facilitate maximum economic growth. The UIC's policy of cutting taxes, putting a cap on the amount government can tax us, and streamlining the policies and regulations to be more focused on empowering Jamaicans will actually generate more revenues rather than less. In the short term, you will have an immediate contraction on the government side, but at the same time, you're going to have an explosion on the private market side. So you're now going to have small businesses and micro businesses having more resources to work with and having more access to technology and having an enabling environment that will actually allow us to pay for the cost we need. We're going to change the healthcare model so that the government pays for the citizen directly as opposed to pay for the system to exist. So private enterprise will now manage the system fully, which will reduce government's costs, while we focus on covering the cost of the poor through an insurance scheme that covers them just as well as any rich person would be covered. So they'll have access to the very same healthcare facilities, quality now, no longer the poor government arrangement, quality healthcare, but paid for directly through the user, as opposed to being paid overall and allowing inefficiencies and ineffectiveness and bad customer service. So now all of the different entities, whether it's education or healthcare, will have to compete for customers, meaning how well do you treat the people that they will want to come to your establishment for education or healthcare, because the money will now follow the patient and the money will follow the student.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. Did that answer your question, Mr. Neal, satisfactorily?
Yes, I think it does. Make it very.
Okay. Awesome. Very good. Thank you so much. Before I take your question, Ms. Adams and Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Patterson, there's a chat from the group, or there's a question from the chat rather. Will you allow people to buy or sell in cryptocurrency or gold?
A very good question. We will not be allowing anything. We will be restoring to you your right to freely choose to buy and sell whatever you want, so long as you're not engaged in the use of force or fraud, or you're not selling something which is injurious to others based on, basic principles of proper disclosure and all that kind of stuff about what you're selling.
Great. Thank you so much for explaining that. Again, it boils right down to not infringing on other people's privacy. And as long as what we're doing is okay with us, it's good to go. That's always been our motto here at the UIC.
Quick question, Madam Chair. I forgot to do this when I did my presentation. Could you ask the viewers to just rate the presentation? 100% if it was perfect, 50% if it was so-so, and less if it's less. Could you just get the...
Okay.
Just
So
yeah. So we can
yes,
get a feeling what they're...
That is very important to us to know how to move forward in terms of improving our presentation, improving the information we're giving you. So if you could write in the chat, is it 100%, 90%, 10%, or or I should say out of 10, 9, 8, 7, and so forth, okay? So that will help us to improve on our future town hall meetings. And Ms. Adams, the floor is yours to ask your question. Thank you so much.
It's just thank you for that the information that's shared tonight. Very informative. And my question, because Mr. Patterson, you made the comparison between Singapore and Jamaica in the transition from the colonial ownership to independence. With the knowledge that our independence has been a fake independence, pretend independence. I was just wondering, with the two similar a starting point of independence, did Singapore stick with having a governor general, as their head of state, or did they transition from that scenario?
Yeah, so Singapore did not stick with the system that we kept. They actually did away with Governor General, and they created a presidency model. But more than that, their legal framework and structure and their constitution and their policies. For example, here's a policy that Jamaica has that Singapore didn't employ. Most countries created a minimum wage in their country because that's what the colonial powers told them to do. Lee Kuan Yew, the greatest leader ever, as far as I can tell, said, no, we're not going to have a minimum wage. We believe that it's best to allow the market to set the price of wages. And we're going to focus instead on educating our people to produce at their highest capacity so they can earn the highest amount. That proved to be brilliant because the people never got tricked into minimum wage thinking. They absorbed and moved towards productivity and how to be the best that they can be at their jobs and at their businesses. And as a result, while we today have about $8,000 per capita in GDP per person, Singapore has about $98,000 per person today because of that one simple policy. I should also add that because Singapore did not go with the minimum wage approach and went with a market approach to pricing everything in their country, except for housing, because they said housing should not be an investment, but somewhere that people live. If you want to invest, that's fine, but we're going to make sure people have a place to live. So they didn't play with that. So what happened with this now? Jamaica, with our minimum wage policy, it immediately put a lot of people out of work because nobody would hire them because of the low level of productivity. And they didn't understand the disconnect between their productivity and wages. So they became unemployable over time for sitting out the market for so long. So every year we're producing 70% of our students failing high school, many of them never being employed, and then they become permanently unemployable because they lose even the basic knowledge they have. So you setting a price cap on wages actually eliminated all of these people from the market without anybody realizing. Anybody who is ordinary will not realize it. But if you're able to understand economics and how price fixing works, you can then see the outcome. So Lee Kuan Yew did not do the Governor General bit. He did not follow the plan given to them by the colonial masters, carte blanche. He made changes that would result in his country being as great as it is, and our country being as weak as it is.
Great. Thank you so much for that explanation, Mr. Patterson. And to take a couple questions from the chat, how will taxes be collected from the self-employed if they do not file an income tax report?
Well, in the UIC system, we'll all be filing an income tax report. So everybody has to file a tax report under the UIC system, and everybody has to account for their income. And we'll make an example of anybody who doesn't, especially if they are, at the highest level of society. But all will be required to file a tax return, and everyone will be accountable in this country.
Okay, so there you have it. I'm thinking maybe the reason that question was asked, for example, there are the people on the store, on the streets, and the vendors, selling their little wares. How would those people report their taxes how would they do that? Especially because they don't have a small business per se. They're just hustling on the street. I think that's probably where this person is coming from with that question.
Yeah, and once you keep that kind of system in place, then that's what you have. But we're not going to have a Jamaica like that. We're going to have a Jamaica where we're really empowering our people. As I spoke about ensuring proper nutrition, education, housing, healthcare, we're moving away from this model of just having people hustling along. We're going to really move people into formal production on every level. Whether even if you're just sweeping the street, you're going to be in a formal system where you're a street sweeper, you're respected, you're regarded, you're treated with dignity, and you have a proper salary and a proper paycheck. If you're selling on the street, you have a proper permit. You have zones that you can sell in. The place is kept clean. There's public washrooms. So we're not going to just have this very loose and poorly managed system where you hassle people sometimes and mash up their cards or whatever. None of that. We're going to have a very orderly Jamaica where the people are respected, from the granny who don't have anything at all to the big man who think that him shouldn't pay attention to anything at all.
Excellent explanation, sir. And I think because we're so used to the 80 years of nothing, it's making it difficult for some people to wrap this information around their brain. And the reason I say that, someone commented that it's going to take 30 years to fix Jamaica. How would you respond to that type of comment, sir?
No, it won't take 30 years. As long as we keep the two political parties in place, it will take 100 years for us to get anywhere close to what I'm talking about. But the moment you look, for example, at crime, the moment we no longer elect those two parties and elect the UIC, we change the trajectory on crime, because now you'll have a government that is not tainted by a criminal past and is not beholden to any criminal enterprises. So the people and even the criminals will have a greater respect for the government initially. And then now the policies we pursue will either cause the people to be impressed or not. And when they see that the government is committed to doing what we propose and that we're doing it systematically and with respect for them, you're going to see a change in behavior. For example, when they see that every tax dollar that they give the government is being fully accounted for. And I'll tell you how far we're going to go with this. We're going to have a portal, an internet portal on the government that literally shows you tax dollars coming in and going out. We have the technology now to do this. So you're going to see what came in, what source it came from at a macro level, of course, and what it's being spent on. And you can track and see what has been allocated to fix the road on your street, when the money is approved and how much it is, and who has the contract to do it. You'll see that clearly. So now the people are going to be empowered by the very technology which some countries are using to control the people. We're going to use the same technology to liberate the people. Now you'll know exactly what your MP is up to, what your senator is up to, what your minister of health is up to. You'll see you can go and drill down and see what's going on and how it's going to affect your community. What is slated for my community? When will the bridge be fixed? When will the road be fixed? When will the clinic be fixed? Well, you'll see what's going on. And so now we're going to empower the people more than they have ever been empowered before. And we're going to disempower the politician, because now he will have nothing to hide behind because of the transparency in the system.
Exactly. So I was about to use that word, transparency and accountability, because we don't see any of that now. But with this system of government in place, the UIC, we will begin to see that. And cleaning up from the bottom, cleaning up the basic areas that should have been in place a long time ago, is cleaning that up now and moving forward. Mr. Dalton, you have the floor, please. Your question for Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, Mr. Patterson, sir. I applaud your vision of a future Jamaica. Someone just said it will take about 30 years. You said it won't. It will take less, or it'll take a longer time, as long as the two main parties are still operating.
Yes.
Now, I've been listening to your presentation for a long time. So some of the things that you've said, I've heard it before, and I agree with, and I hope in my lifetime I can see the Jamaica you wish for and hope for. But the thing is, like, how do we start this process apart from, all right, we're getting stronger and stronger, more people coming, but I look at things and to saying, like, politics in Jamaica is a tribal thing, right?
Yes.
We've got to get rid of that. How do we get rid of that? How do we, start to make a dent in the two major parties, as long as we've got so much opposition against, like, the media, etc., etc., etc. I'm just looking for something to start to make a small dent. Okay, I am not resided in Jamaica at the moment, but for example, every time I go to Jamaica, I try to bring back a souvenir to give to people. No, Mickey Mouse souvenir, like that. And there's certain places I used to go. And when I go there now, in fact, I've stopped the last couple of years. Some of the souvenirs, they're very nice. When I look at it, I see made in China. So I stop. I don't go to those places. I try to go up on the back street and see a man with a craft and do a proper crossing. So I'm looking, I want to hear something. Maybe I've missed it, where we can start to make dents into doing this. And I can't hear it at the moment. So maybe you got something enlightened that you can, I don't know, talk about. I mean,
Sure.
talk about putting a,
Let me share something with you.
please.
There is no magic bullet. I'll say it this way, for example, nobody can learn for you or me, right? Nobody can learn. If you want to learn something, you have to learn it yourself. And I'm getting to a point here, but I'm gonna
I
work.
agree.
So no, and I know many Jamaicans or some Jamaicans, for example, they wish that somebody would just come in and fix Jamaica. Maybe a foreign government just come in, maybe a messiah just come down from heaven, maybe a dictator just rise up and take over and just do it and fix it. And that's the wrong way of thinking, because the only way we can change Jamaica is if we who have the capacity to understand everything that I've just said, to make a decision to be as passionate and committed to this as I am. Now, if you think about it, I am like you. I am selfish. I want what's best for me and my family. I want to be safe. I would love for Jamaica to be better. Now, unlike many of you, I have decided to do something about it. I have stepped out. I have put myself and my family and my finances on the line, and I'm saying, okay, we want this. All you have to do now, since I have spent with people like Miss Janet here on the call, and Mrs. Patterson and Mr. Neal and Mr. Reed and Mr. Wallace, Miss Barrett, we have stepped out and we're saying, let's do this. Now, how do we do it? It's very simple. We have to give our time, we have to give our talent, and we have to give some of our treasure. Now, just imagine if for the last several years, when I said I would like 1,000 persons in the diaspora to give $25, 1,000 persons in Jamaica to give $1,000 every month. The UIC today, if we had done that a few years ago, the UIC today would be unstoppable. Now, here's what we can do. If we do that today, then the UIC 2 years from now will be unstoppable. But if we don't do it today, the UIC 2 years from now and 4 years from the point in time, or 5 years, will still be not able to do what it needs to do. There is no way for us to fix Jamaica without contributing our time, our talent, and our treasure. And I'll give you a quick example. Look at Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey created the UNIA, United Negro Improvement Association. Then he created the Marcus Garvey political party. How did he do that? He spoke to Jamaicans like me and you back then, as they reached into their pockets, and they reached into their time reserves, and they reached into their mental talents, and they contributed. And before you know it, the man go to US and almost take over the whole country. That they had to specify a particular division of the US government to say how we're going to take down this man, because they will liberate the black people in here. Him cause them to own barber shops and own cleaning laundromats and own restaurants and them a build shipping line and them, and they're like, no, we don't want this. We don't want this kind of economic liberation to be happening here. And so they shut him down. Now, they've been trying to do the same thing, to shut me down and by extension, you down. Now, all we have to do is to make sure they don't. That's all. If we make sure they don't shut us down, if we make sure that even if they block us from radio and television and their banking system, they can't shut us down. If they send people to infiltrate and go and tell lies and misrepresent, they can't shut us down. If we say no, then we would not have allowed what happened to Marcus and Malcolm and Martin and others to happen again. But if we hope and pray and wish for somehow for it to happen without us giving our time, our talent, and our treasure, then, and mind you, we all can't give equally. I will give more time than many of you. Another person may give more money than you. Another person may give more talent than you. But if we all give something, some time, some talent, and some treasure, we'll have the power to bring the change we seek.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I am part of the diaspora. Since I've been listening to you, I've been spreading the word. I'm contributing financially as such, but physically, all I can do, being as part of the diaspora, is to spread the word and encourage other people to get involved and to become a member.
And that's it. That's all you
Right.
need to do. That's all you need to do.
Well, I'm continuing doing that, and I will continue to do that until such time when I can put my foot down in Jamaica as a permanent resident.
Yes.
Then I can participate more.
We want 1,000 more of you, Mr. Hamilton. So let's hear what Mr. Wallace and Miss Judy has to say now, and see if they agree with you, Mr. Hamilton, if they're willing to do what you're doing.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Before I take them though, Mr. Patterson, there are several questions here in the chat.
Okay.
So I'll bring one of them to your attention. How will you respond to the minimum wage objections if it's hurting the poor, like single mothers or the homeless, and everyone has a right to a livable wage?
Okay, so first, let me say something that you're not going to, well, I shouldn't say you're not. You may struggle to agree with me on this one, but I want you to listen carefully. No one has a right to a wage. No one at all has a right to a wage. Whether it's a livable or a minimum or a maximum, no one has a right to a wage. What you have a right to is your life. And you have a right to your liberty to do what you want with that life. And you have a right to own property that comes from your effort with that life. So what you have a right to do is to earn, and to not have anybody use force or fraud to either deny you the right to earn or to deny you the full value of your earnings. Now, I've explained before this concept of minimum wage, and I want to explain to you something very briefly now, if we don't have the full time, but think of wage as a price. It is a price for a product. The product is the value that you're going to add to this company, okay? The company needs you as much as you need the company. Of course, there will be disparities, meaning the company might have many of you to choose from, meaning if the company needs somebody that can sweep the floor, we'll have a lot more people who can sweep the floor than if they need an engineer that can design the floor. So you'll have fewer people that can design the floor and a lot of people who can sweep the floor. If you have a lot of people who can do something, the price of the labor for those persons will be lower because you have a lot of people who can do it with minimal training. So the price will be lower. So the buyer of that service can pick and choose who he's buying from. Okay, so the value will be low because anybody can do it, or many people can do it. The price for the engineer who's going to design the floor now, because there's only a few of him with that competencies and skill, the price will be higher. So the goal of government, and Singapore has proven this, is to ensure that you give your people the opportunity to achieve their maximum potential. So those who can be engineers are engineers. Those who can be electricians are electricians. Those who can be laborer, like whatever reason, that's what they can achieve, they're laborers. Now the price is going to adjust accordingly throughout this situation. And if you focus on building the people's capacity, then they will rise to the price. In Singapore, they had to import labor to do the lower skill jobs because the vast majority of their people were so well trained. The human capital of that country has been so well developed. And so that's their solution, and that's also my solution. We don't want to give you the false idea that government can magically set a price. One more thing, Madam Chair, before I go. When the government makes the minimum wage $15,000 or $20,000 or $100,000, can make any number they want. While they can make the number, they can't make anybody employ you. Yeah, so they can make a number, they can make up a number. So like I think in one US state, they have just made the minimum wage $20 an hour, and immediately they have lost several jobs. Very simple, hire, lost. And while they're doing this, many of these companies are now employing AI and robots. So where it was a human being used to flip the burger, now a robot does it. Now what will this, and this is, Jamaica is not immune to any of this. So the more we simply focus on getting people to think about earning a livable minimum wage, is the more we're killing ourselves. We need to get people to move away from minimum wage and focus on how do I earn my maximum wage? How do I make myself valuable in the market? And maybe, how do I create my own enterprise that is going to be able to not only employ me, but other people as well, rather than focusing on being fixated on the government artificially setting a price for you. They can set a price for you, but they cannot make you be employed. And many Jamaicans are unemployed because even though the price may be, in our opinion, low, $13,000 what it was before, there are many Jamaicans who cannot deliver $13,000 worth of production. You have to hire 4 of them to get $13,000 worth of production. Now that is dangerous, that is serious, because it means you're creating the opportunity for massive unemployment. And as AI kick in, as robotics kick in, you're going to have more and more people wanting less and less jobs, which will further erode the price of those jobs and put them in a very difficult. So let us be honest with our people, and I am prepared. If you want my leadership, you're going to have to live with a very honest and straightforward leader. I am not going to mislead you to get your votes, and then when you elect me, I have to play gymnastics with you because I know it was foolishness. I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to work on fixing the problem with your help.
Well, thank you so much for that detailed explanation, Mr. Patterson. And I hope that everyone who is hearing this has a little bit of better understanding. And I'm sure this is a subject that we will be talking about more often as well. So thank you. Ms. Judy, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience. You're still muted if you're speaking. Oh, wow. Okay, I think she's ready. The floor is yours. Okay, we're not hearing you. Why don't I go to Mr. Roy Wallace and we'll come back to you, okay? Mr. Roy Wallace, the floor is yours and we'll catch Miss Judy after you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Janet. And excellent presentation thus far, Mr. Patterson. I'd like you to speak a little bit more to the high energy costs, because as you might be aware, Germany was a economic behemoth, and since the energy costs, they lost the low energy cost that they were price that they were getting from Russia. They're now almost in recession. So I think Jamaica is shackled pretty much by the high energy costs. What would you do, UIC government do to cut the energy cost and improve production?
A wonderful question, and I'm glad you mentioned Germany. I don't know if you're aware, but Germany, sometime over the last 15 years, had gone on a alternative energy path where they were heavily investing in alternative energy. And what happened was they saw that it worked very, very well. And because of that, the energy companies, the established energy companies were becoming economically challenged because of the alternative source of energy. And so the government backtracked on its policy and decided to kind of put a damper on that approach and to shift back to what they were doing normally. And the result of that is what you're talking about today, given other geopolitical issues, which such as the Russia-Ukraine conflict and how that affected, global world prices. And of course, US policy with NATO countries that decided that they're going to choke themselves in order to try to choke Russia. So there are lots of factors there, Mr. Wallace. But from a Jamaican perspective, what we're going to do, we have not, as a country, tapped into fully utilizing solar, wind, geothermal, and biogas. As an engineer myself, I am shocked at how we have not realized how powerful a value we have been blessed with by God Himself, with what we have here in Jamaica to produce energy by ourselves on our own here in Jamaica that will cut our energy costs. Now, it comes with some problems, right? Because the moment you start to do that, JPS will become less profitable, and you're going to have to decide how to do that transition with the government owning a portion of that company, and they're not going to want what to happen. So you need a really good negotiator. You need somebody who understands how to create win-win solutions. That happens to be one of my strengths. So we're going to have to figure out a way how to transition. Those who have bought JPS will eventually have to leave the country because it will no longer be profitable for them if we have gone this way. It won't happen overnight, but we'll transition nicely, buy out their shares, and repurpose and get the company going in a different direction. So we're going to create a very energy. We are going to maximize our energy use, but we're going to take it on as an industry, meaning we're not just trying to provide Jamaica with energy. We're going to make Jamaica very involved in studying. So our school program, our college program, university program, our research institute will make energy studies a key part of our. You're going to hear the Prime Minister with this tomorrow, by the way. That's going to happen. But we're going to really zero in on our studying energy as a country, as a people. So our students really learn energy. We're going to study water management, water harvesting, water distribution, water packaging. I can just see Andrew and Mark writing like crazy right now. But and listen for it. You're going to hear all of this next week, right? But we're going to really make sure that our schools, they're studying how to keep Jamaica water, food, and energy secure. And then we're going to export this knowledge, export the technology. We're going to invest in our own research facilities and building these things out. Similar to, and we're not doing anything new here. Other countries have made certain segments their specialty. For example, Israel, they have really mastered water usage, right? It's not, everybody should know this, right? They're masters at energy, at water. The Netherlands, they have mastered agriculture and how to squeeze out the last little bit using technology and using techniques. We in Jamaica, we're very backwards, right? On almost any one of these fronts. We do very little in the way of understanding our water movements and how to capture, how to even turn storms and hurricanes into profit, opportunities by how we harvest what's coming from it, whether it's the wind or the water itself. So we're nowhere near this kind of thinking as a government, as a people. So we want to do this now. We want to really invest in studying water, studying food production, studying energy production and management, maximizing our ability as an organic producer around the world and becoming that niche country that really satisfies a big percentage of the global need for organic foods. Really revamping tourism again at the local level, getting our people fully involved in the product. So our children learn in school to love and respect the tourism product, to love and respect how they don't want to see garbage on the road. In one country, Japan, for example, their children, as part of their school program, they clean the school. So I know that's unheard of for us because we've gone past that so long. But in their culture, they teach the children to clean up after themselves, to make sure the school is clean every day, properly. And then that translates now into the rest of society. So we can learn from these things quickly, not this long learning process now where yeah, whole heap of talk, and nothing is done, except you hear that there's more money stolen every year. So we have to change that trajectory now and start getting things done. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for for that explanation, Mr. Patterson. And we're glad this is the reason why it is so important to have these town hall meetings so we can address the questions, we can have dialogue and hear from the people. Ms. Adams, it's your turn to ask your question. Thank you for your patience.
Let's remember also the people in the chat section, eh? And
Yes, I have some questions coming up.
and on our other
Yeah.
platforms as well. Like
Yes, not really such a question per se, but just to piggyback on what Mr. Patterson was saying, as far as the energy sector and, you know, talking about the cost of fuel and whatever else, we do have treasures there in Jamaica. Because we did have, I don't know if I should be using past tense or present tense with this one particular individual, but we have an inventor, or have, I don't know, since COVID happened, I have no idea where this man is, but we did have someone in Jamaica that was that invented a device wherein you could you know, place it in your car and you could operate your car on just water. And I'd spoken to him, I think in late August 2019, and he had mentioned to me that he has like a windmill, and it's not the typical windmill with the, you know, the propellers that, you know, circulate. It I guess it's designed like vertically, and so it spins you know, in a different manner rather than what we have commonly seen, you know, and even if he is not present there, because I know his device was being manufactured in China, and the last conversation I had with him, he was saying that they were basically trying to take over his business, seeing that the equipment was being manufactured there. But I know he had students that assisted him in developing the device that he created. And so there must be there in Jamaica still, if he is not there in Jamaica or even on the planet, because I know he had mentioned that, you know, they basically threatened his life. But I don't know. Mr. Patterson, had you heard of BAccS?
yes,
That company?
I've heard of that company as well as the gentleman you're talking about. And definitely that's the kind of thing we want, right? We want to make it easier for innovators to innovate and to get access to funding and to get their products to market quickly, to be tested, to be vetted, and to see, you know, and also to be protected from outside forces that will want to shut down great things that may come from our country. So we really need a government that's really for us, and we just haven't had that. But let's move on quickly, Ms. Chakanowski, because time is of the essence. So let's take as many short questions as possible, and we can go our comments, and we can go from there.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Patterson. And because of time, we will only be able to take one more question, but I will be writing down the other questions in the chat. So when we have our next town hall, we will definitely address those questions. So let's see, one more question in the chat. That is, it's coming.
Did we take any questions?
How will you help the farmers where it is becoming criminalized in a lot of cases?
Thank you. Did we take questions from YouTube as well? I see people on YouTube here really engaged on the subject matter. Okay, so the question from the gentleman who asked about the farmers, it's a very, very simple answer. We're going to protect all Jamaicans. You remember the UIC is the Freedom Party, yeah? We are the Education Party, we're the Freedom Party, we're the People's Party. So every Jamaican will feel empowered in this new Jamaica. Your rights are going to be fully protected. So whether you're a farmer or any other form of business person, as long as you're not involved in the use of force or fraud to get your way, you'll be protected by your government so that you can achieve your maximum potential. Now, farming will be a little bit of a special case because we're going to ensure that we are helping everybody within the farming community who wants to be involved to really get on board with a massive industrialization level of farming in Jamaica that is unprecedented. We're going to rival the Netherlands in terms of food production. That's the kind of scale we're talking about. So a lot of cooperation will be necessary, a lot of new structures and new engagements to ensure that we can maximize the asset that we have, both human and natural, and then of course leveraging and acquiring and leveraging the technology to bring us to that level in fast order. It's going to be quite rapid in our build up to that level, and we're doing that simultaneously with tourism because we do have a competitive advantage there. We want to match those two competitive advantage and ensure that the common man, if there's such a thing, at the lowest level of our society, if there's such a thing, but the grassroots are fully benefiting.
Thank you so much for your response, Mr. Patterson, and I hope that helps the individual who asked a question. Mr. Neal, your final question and thought as we wrap this up. I'll have Mr. Patterson give his final encouragement to the group. Thanks again for joining us. Go ahead, Mr. Neal.
All right, so there was a person commenting in the chat. Don't remember the name. He was saying that he thinks that we should not give away land free, but leave it to the to real estate, and that goes along with a question that I saw. We promised to make every Jamaican a property owner by returning the lands that were stolen from their ancestors. But do we have enough lands, and how feasible is that to do economically? So I guess we could just combine those two about how will we do this divestment of land to the citizens, and how feasible is it?
I did speak to it before, but let me say something quickly here. For those who think that we don't have enough land, Singapore has 1/15 the amount of land we have, which means it could fit 15 Singapores into Jamaica. Singapore has almost 6 million people. If you multiply 6 million people by 15, Jamaica can hold about 90 million people. Of course, you know, we're not going to be nowhere near there. We're not going to be 90 million people. But Jamaica could theoretically hold 90 million people. So the person who asked that question, you have just been informed that Jamaica actually has enough land. Now, if we brought back every Jamaican from the diaspora, which would not happen, that's not going to happen. But theoretically, if we brought back every Jamaican from the diaspora right now, together with the near 3 million at home, we'll only have maximum 7 million people. So that means we have more than enough. Now, the UIC is not going to just simply give away land willy-nilly, because you have to plan this, you have to manage this. And we're going to make sure that the best lands for agriculture are preserved. And those lands will be owned in common, meaning the dividends from those lands will go directly to the individual citizens, not to the government to do whatever it wants with it. But the profits from those lands, the people get a dividend, like an oil company, an oil country that has oil, they give oil dividends to their citizens because that's their big, massive asset that's owned by all the citizens. The land that is used for the massive agricultural project, which is also going to be a part of our tourism product as well. You're going to make this great enterprise a part of your tourism product. The funds generated from that, not all the funds, but profits from that, a portion of that will go directly into the hands of the Jamaican people as dividends to them. Now, we're going to build up the housing stock now, using principles that will cause the housing not to be seen as investment like the way they are now. So you're going to be way below market value to produce high quality homes. And before you say we can't do it, Singapore already did it, and they did it very, very well. Now, we have the benefit of hindsight. We can see all the mistakes they made, even though they were successful. We can see all the mistakes they made. We can see how we could have done it better. And then we're going to do it much better and give every Jamaican a property that's affordable, that's manageable, and it's not going to take 30 years to pay off. And at the same time, we're going to maximize the yield of our land and make the entire nation richer and richer at the granular level, not richer at the macro level, where you get macro numbers that are big and wonderful while the people are suffering. Our richness must be measured at the people level. How are the people doing? Their quality of life and their personal wealth as individuals.
Thank you so much for that clear explanation, sir. I hope our listeners got that. And I know it sounds so impossible because we're so used to getting nothing, and to hear all the great plans that the UIC has, it almost sounds unrealistic. But this is something, these are areas that should have been in place years and years and years ago. So now is our time to move forward in these areas. I want to thank everyone again for attending, taking time out of your busy schedule or your busy Sunday afternoon, which is your rest, most of us rest day, to come and spend some time with us, to hear from Mr. President, to hear of his plans, to hear him explain about the budget and the deception that continues. We hear it over and over. So Mr. Patterson, if you could give us your final words, sir, we'll truly appreciate it.
Sure. I'm going to give Mr. Duff the opportunity to ask his question. And I'll use my response to him as my final words, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, sir.
Go ahead, Mr.
Thank
Duff.
you. Thank you both for taking this quick question. Just actually a continuation of what you just said. Most Jamaicans should realize this, that land is never, ever going to be an issue, the quantity of land. I come from the parish of St. Thomas, and I'm telling you, I don't believe within 1 week I can cover any square foot mileage in that parish. It is extremely big. And I'm telling you, in my district alone, I don't have 1,000 people living in there. I don't even have 500. I would go offhand. So I don't understand where that question could come from. I mean, I wish I have 500 people, because if we have 500 people, we would definitely have a better community, because 200 person can't even get JPS to run a proper electricity in the area. 500, Home Depot would consider doing business there. Go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Duff. So he has made the point that we do have the land space, and I love using Singapore as my model to explain to you the potential of Jamaica. And I hope you appreciate it, because for too long, you have been duped, tricked, misled, misguided, miseducated by the very people who tell us that they're here to make our lives better off. The UIC is now giving you and me, all of us, an opportunity to take back our country. For the first time in the history of Jamaica, for more than 500 years now, we are at a level, we're at a space where we are able, intellectually, financially, to take back our country. I'm calling on all of us here at home and abroad to invest in this movement as your movement. All it takes here in Jamaica is $250 a week. Think about it. Is that too much to invest in your freedom? Is that too much to invest in recovering your country? Is that too much in giving your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, posterity, an opportunity at a Jamaica that looks nothing less than Singapore? And those of you who are in the diaspora, is it too much to ask to give $250 a week, $2.50 US a week minimum? Yeah, that's the membership in the organization, $10 a month US for your membership. And if we have 1,000 of us who decide that, hey, I'm going to be a member of the UIC, I'm going to be a member of this. And I'm not going to just be a member in the silent, in the darkness. I'm going to be a member who show up for meetings. I'm going to be a member who show up to tell other people about our meetings. I'm going to be a member who is involved in monitoring the finances. I'm going to come to meetings and ask, show me the finances. What's going on with our, where's the money coming from? Where is it going? What's the investment? How is it working? I'm going to be a member who vote on policy changes. I'm going to be a member who attends the annual members Congress meeting, maybe even fly down to Jamaica like Mr. Grant did recently. Fly down to Jamaica and come to the annual members Congress and be a part. Let this be your movement. Don't allow this moment to slip away. I mean, I have given it a lot of time and energy. You know that. Anybody who knows me and know what's going on. I put a lot of time into this. And I'm still here. I retired recently for about 2 or 3 weeks, I think, Mr. Neil. And then I was, oh, Mr. Neil is gone. He's not even hearing me.
No, he's here, sir.
Okay, so I retired Mr. Neil. He's looking like he's not connecting. I retired for about a couple of weeks. Now, mind you, I really retired, guys. I really retired, and I tried.
You did.
I really tried. But I was pulled back into it, and I'm here for you. I'm not retiring again, so this is lifetime now, right? And I'm here for the last 12 years, right? I'm here, and I'm saying, just join me now. Stop looking and waiting for the UIC to take off without you.
Can't.
Is it going to just take off and yeah, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon when it's now off? No, help us to take off. Help us to put on the wheel, the screw, the door, the window, the engine, the wings, the flappers. Help us to put all of this in place. Help us to get fuel into the tank. Help us to check the gauges. Help us to make this UIC plane. For Marcus Garvey, it was a ship, the Black Star Liner. Help us to create the Blue Airline, right? And now make this our way of stop hearing politicians telling us that Jamaica is going to take off. Let us take off Jamaica. Let us own the party and the movement now and stop relying and hoping that two parties created specifically to get rid of Marcus Garvey, specifically to usurp our government, specifically to keep us bonded to the colonial structures. It's time for us to wake up now. It's time to open our eyes now. It's time to just wipe out the cobweb from our brains and say, this is it.
This is it.
Fledgling as the UIC is, weak as we are, because we're only as strong as you. And so as you support, we are strong. As you withdraw your support, we're weak. Don't listen to the detractors. Don't listen to those who have no problems lying to you through their teeth, who have no problems disparaging other people's character, who have no problem trying to destroy a movement they didn't create. I'm saying to you, it's time for you to say enough is enough. I want my country back. I may not even live to see the full result of what I'm working for. But just imagine, suppose Nanny and said, oh, I might never live to see the Jamaica, I can have enough. Because I can give up. We would never have the British coming to sign a treaty to say, listen, man, we can't take this no more. If Sam Shaw had said, boy, I'm gonna lose my life with them people, I know, what would have happened? He wouldn't have done what he did, and that would have set us back some more. If Paul Bogle and George William Gordon had said, no, sir, this seems impossible. I don't bother with this. What would have happened? Yes, my friends, they lost their lives in the process. But if they never lost their lives, you could not have gained your freedom. And if Marcus Garvey didn't do what he did, I couldn't be referring to him today to say, look at the powerful outcome. One man, how he brought an entire race of people together across several continents, different countries, and got them to have, purpose, to have a sense of belief in themselves. And if Marcus Garvey could do it without social media, no Facebook, no Twitter, no WhatsApp, no YouTube, he did it. My God, man, we must be able to do it too, and do better. By now, we should have 4 million, well, maybe not that much. We should at least have 1 million people by now across the diaspora and locally saying, this we want. And if we had even 1,000 members committed monthly to contributing, we would be so far ahead because we would have had the means to get around all of the attempts to deny you the Jamaica that the UIC has to offer. So join hands with me and let us create one Jamaica, united, strong, and free. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those powerful closing words, Mr. Patterson. Freedom is a journey, and all of us have to go on this journey together. The UIC alone cannot do it. The NEC alone cannot do it. We all have to come together. No man is an island. So keep that in mind as we say our good night, and we definitely will be back on the platform again to do another one of these town halls. get our YouTube up and running. We need your help. Without you, we cannot function. We cannot move forward. It's our movement, so we have to take ownership of it. So thanks one more time. Thanks for your time, for coming and spending with us tonight. You have a great night, a wonderful rest tonight, and have a wonderful and productive week. Thank you so much.
One Jamaica, stronger together.
One Jamaica, stronger together. Absolutely. One Jamaica, stronger together.
Here.
Have a good night,
Stronger
everyone.
together, always.
All the way,
Always.
yes.
Stronger together.
Good night. Good
Yeah.
night, guys.
So